All right, Talafalava, my name is Makirusa Protesano, the coordinator for the Multicultural Center and co-coordinator for the Men of Color Leadership Program, along with my colleague, Dr. Clifford Meeks, who you'll be able to see below in our video, assistant coordinator and co-coordinator for the Multicultural Center and the Men of Color Leadership Program. Over the course of a year, we've had this group of men gathered together. Some new this term, some we lost from last term, but collectively we serviced over 12 students this year. And as we reflect back on our time, we thought it was a great idea, and our students' idea really, to share the experience of the class with PCC, the importance of it, what it means to be in this program, and what it means to be a man of color at Portland Community College and in the community. So we have a series of questions, but we're going to kick right in. And something we do before class or before the lecturing part is we talanoa. And talanoa is a concept that exists in the South Pacific, but really in all indigenous cultures, as we talk story, bind stories together, and really just have a fluid conversation on whatever our students are willing to talk about. In fact, right before we started recording, we had a talanoa session about like what's happening right now with the Black Lives Matter protests and the police brutality protests happening right now in our city and the cities that we're at. So we did that for a good half an hour before we started recording. And before we start, and for everyone else, we'll just kind of model what it looks like again to talanoa, to open up the space and our voices and to be in community. So I'm going to leave it up to everybody, and we'll get started. If you got something you want to chime in, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll go ahead and get started. Today's presentation is monitored by myself and Dr. Meeks, and yeah, we'll just go ahead and do that. So what's up, y'all? We good? We're recording? Y'all look a little stiff. The camera went on, just bucked up a little bit. All right. Yeah, so it's been an interesting term, right? Like, we've been online and we've learned a lot. We dove into some really deep and heavy topics, and we've also had some good laughs. What are your reflections on spring term, specifically in this class, CG 191? Anyone want to open up? Give me a thumbs up and I'll call on you or something. Yeah. All right, let's go, Jay.
Yeah, I think this class is great. I'm really stoked about it. I think it's kind of been really nice. I think that higher ed has traditionally been a place that's kind of not been very comfortable, not very comfortable for men of color and people of color in general. And I feel like this class is a space where we can, talk about our own experiences that are often belittled in the higher education journeys that we're all on. And so it's nice to like talk those, talk story like you were talking about with the talanoa. It's really nice, and I think important for us to all find that camaraderie and same experience in one another. And I think it's been really important for me to feel like that there's a space for me in higher academia, and that there's a space that I can feel welcome and important. So, yeah.
Thanks, Jay. For other folks, I mean, what is it specifically about this class that might have helped you with all the stuff that Jay had mentioned before, or even that like we've had to go remote?
I'll go up next. A feeling of comfortability. We've been going through a lot this semester or this term, and it's been almost therapeutic for me at least, and I'm sure a lot of you out there. And I'm grateful to meet. I've met all of you, and in a way, it's just like it's brought up my spirits and helped me get through like some like tactics with homework or like online. It's been difficult, to say the least. But yeah, I'm just grateful that I'm in here and like I've learned a lot so far, and like I'm excited to learn more.
Jorge?
Yeah, I mean, I think what comes to me right now, it's the word community, and a way of building this community as we did, and being able to do it through camera, through Zoom, not in person. And I appreciate that. I think I appreciate all of you. At one point, each one of you have said something that inspired me, or has made me think differently, or has definitely made me reflect on certain things. So I think that being in a room with other men of color, participating in the school system, and kind of also being mentored and taught by two professors of color, you know, one with a master's degree and another with a PhD. I think that just puts us all on a different level of thinking in regards to whether or not we belong in higher education. And like most definitely we do, and we can do that too. So I think that to me is inspirational.
You know, one of the things, I know we asked a question around this class in CG 191, but yourself, Jorge, Jake, and Tony, y'all been in the class since winter term. What has been some of your reflections being a part of this for 2 straight terms? Let's go, Jake.
Well, that was definitely a blessing in the sense that there was a different curriculum for each term, and it was kind of there was definitely like an evolution applied to the curriculum. So, I mean, definitely you could take any term just by itself, I think, of the program, and you would get a lot from it. But having the advantage of having really the first term being more about laying the groundwork and kind of learning and like getting more familiar with the concepts and the terminology and like methods that we can use to communicate them to each other. Being able to come into the second term with that was really beneficial. And I guess I'll tie that into its place in higher ed, being that we don't really have a men of color aren't necessarily coming usually from a culture that really encourages success in higher education or a focus on higher education. And a lot of times the culture of higher education doesn't necessarily focus on encouraging men of color. So for us to come into a classroom that, and I can 100% say that it stands out as really unique because no other classes were like it. To be in an environment where we were focusing on the exact barriers that we had to deal with in every other class or in every other aspect of our lives, and to be able to have a space where we can all relate to each other and learn and teach and grow from that experience together was definitely the most beneficial and impactful experience of my higher education experience so far. So,
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jake. Tony?
I don't know. Things have been very interesting for the last couple of months. When we took the class in person, I really liked that just because I hadn't had any like people of color really as teachers. I grew up in the Portland area like my whole life and just lived around a lot of like very gentrified areas. And so I don't have that many people of color in my life that I hang out with. So coming here is like a nice like reprieve from being around so many people who are like, I have to act like something that I might not be in order to fit in. I don't have to act that way. I'm here. You know, I've had bad days and like come over to our meetings, and it makes me think, okay, maybe I can restart my day from after the meeting. Like, it's not just, it's like a refresher, if you will. I found that it's not too different to be on Zoom or to be on these video messaging than it is in class, because, you know, the only difference is I have trouble looking people in the eye sometimes, and now I can see all your faces. So like, you know, sometimes it's hard for me to look at people because just kind of that kind of way my brain works. And so talking to you guys, I get to see all your faces and I don't have to worry about staring you in the eye, and we can have a conversation. And I really respect a lot of the people in here that, you know, that we have conversations with, because they all have perspectives that are very different than mine. This the thing I really appreciate about this is that it's a collection of multiple beliefs and multiple directions that people are going towards. I feel like I'd like to help my peers out if they need it, because they feel like peers. They don't feel like other people that are just in the class with me. They're people that I can identify with and I can understand their struggles.
Right on. Yeah, thank you so much, Tony. You really talked about the diversity of experiences in this class. And I like how you brought it out from like, hey, we were in this class physically, and here we are, we're on Zoom, and you know, that's been a deterrent for some people, and for other folks, it's been lovely. Like, I think this is the only class, literally the only class I teach that like everybody's on the screen, and that feels good because that's like a regular thing. And I think everyone generally wants to be seen and to see others, and that's what's up. And, you know, interesting enough, Tyrone, you're in both my classes, Dr. Meeks and I's courses, and then you were with Dr. Meeks last term in that race and racism class. What's good with you this term in your reflections on being in the Men of Color class?
It's really good for me because I've been in classes with a couple of my fellow peers right here, Jake, Erwin. You know, I've seen Jorge somewhere, but I just felt like a more welcoming feeling, you know, to me. Like I was like, okay, boom, but we all got different beliefs, like he said, and walks of life and stuff. But I noticed that we all can still relate on things and come like, oh, okay, and we do have things that relate with each other as well. So that feels good, especially coming in here like Tony said, sometimes you're not feeling good that day or something. And I've mentioned this before, it's like therapeutic to me. So it's needed to make me feel like I even belong at a school in higher learning. Because I mean, there's not many spaces where I feel like I'm welcome like everybody else, you know, even though I'm dedicated. So I'm gonna be like, oh, I feel like I got to do that extra to go hard to prove something. But in this class, I just be me. I mean, I'm me everywhere, but it's like I don't have to. If I'm going through something, I can meet with you, Dr. Meek, something like that. And it also helps doing this Zoom thing or doing it online like this. It's not my favorite. It's not my get down like that. But at the same time, knowing like you and Dr. Meeks and like knowing my other teacher, Dennis, it helps me better because I kind of, it might be a different class, but I know you more than just my teacher or my instructor. So that makes it more of something that you can get along like more, because sometimes you might not want to feel comfortable coming to a teacher or asking a question or help or something like that. And that can put a barrier in you learning more. But in this class, I know you guys, so it's easier for me to be like, hey, Matt, can I talk to you on this, or meet up with Dr. Meeks and he helps me on something. So I just feel like, it makes me feel like if I don't feel like I belong in all the college, I feel like I belong in this.
Thanks, brother Tyrone. And actually, Tyrone, you help us segue into one of the first like focus-based questions we want to ask you all, which is, so in addition to the reflections you have about spring, but we want you all to express to us, how has your time in this program helped you feel like you actually belong in higher ed? Tyrone, you spoke on that a bit, but Jake or Jay, how has your time in this program helped you all feel like you belong in higher education?
I could say something. I've been going to community colleges off and on for like 10 years now. And I've always tried to find a space for myself so I can feel settled and I can feel like it's my home base at the school. Right. I've been to 2 other schools since this one. And I really feel like I identify a lot with Mac. Mac reminds me of like somebody that I would have grown up with. And so it's comforting in a way that none of my other schools had. Okay. Especially, when I first started, when I was like 20, 21, and I was going to school, I felt very isolated, like there weren't other people around me like me, and that they wouldn't understand my perspective even if I try to tell them about it. But that's not the case in these classes. I feel like, uh, I learn a little bit about everybody, and it makes me feel like I don't know, I have developed a closer relationship with you guys than I did with any other classes that I've had in the past. I mean, recently I had troubles with a different course that was like an AutoCAD course, and the teachers gave me time to work on that. And since then, I've actually reflected and I've withdrawn from that class because I was not working at the right pace. I wasn't doing things at the level that I wanted to. I wanted to give it another try. I feel like if I keep taking this class, I can keep getting my mental health up in the right way. I can keep trying. I'm hoping next term I can take the class again. Hoping that, with a withdrawal, that'll be, it'll look okay on my record. I can try again. And I feel like I have the ability to try again in a way that I didn't think I had before I came here.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah. No, that's great to hear, because it's great how you actually applied that time to assess what your performance was like in another class and kind of see the difference between the two. So that's a great observation. Jay, how has your time in the program helped you feel like you belong here in higher education?
Yeah, I feel like one of my issues with higher ed, I'm a first generation college student, so academia in general is kind of a foreign concept to me a little bit. But I think one of my biggest issues through that is I'm also an environmental science major, so a lot of science heavy courses, science related classes, and those classes sometimes feel very regimented and academic, and I feel like I'm on the edge of my seat in every class, kind of like just very like everything I say needs to be exactly what I want it to say, what I needed to say. It has to be the right answer. But I feel like in this class, it's definitely allowed me to, say what I'm feeling in the moment and then let my friends and my classmates, uh, you know, work through that, tell me how they feel about those thoughts and give me their own opinions on that. And I think that's really something that's important in a place of learning, is that you're not feeling like you need to have the right answer at all times. It's just like a conversation with, like, you know friends or family. It's just like you're saying things, you're putting out your opinion because that's kind of how you feel, but it doesn't have to be exactly the right answer, or maybe there isn't a right answer to that question. And I think that kind of energy is really important in a place of learning, for sure. So I feel like that's kind of made me feel like there's a place for me in academia, for sure, in that type of learning. Yeah.
Thanks, Jay. Really appreciate hearing that. And it's good to hear both you and Tony have expressed that. It's not just what's happening in the class, but it's also helping you all assess how this is helping your sense of belonging in other areas of the school as well. You've also mentioned a very, I'll use your word, regimented section like the sciences, where, yeah, a lot of times you feel like you have to be, having been a science major myself, there are many times I felt like, yeah, I needed to have the right answer. Otherwise, everybody's going to look at me funny. So, so definitely having a program like this is instrumental in helping you feel like, okay, I don't have to be right all the time. So, other thoughts? How's your time in this program helped you feel like you belong here in higher ed? Jorge?
To me, it's helped me in a way of being able to get more comfortable and more confident asking for support, and knowing that you're not alone when you need to access certain resources at a school, or being able to set an appointment with an advisor, or if you don't know how to navigate that system, that you're not alone. And I think that to me is a huge takeaway where I'm now feeling that I can walk into an office or walk in with a professor or ask for help, or seek support from Mac or from you, Dr. Meeks, in regards to that, and how to access it, how to navigate it, or what questions I need to ask. And I think that right there alone helps someone like me or any of us, I think, feel more confident in how we can pursue our education, how we can advocate for what we need, versus staying silent and just going with the flow, and then later on kind of getting lost in the system. And I think this program has helped me figure that out and kind of being more aligned with what I need to do to be able to provide a better future and experience in college.
Thanks, Jorge. Jake, you got something to add? What you got, brother?
So my thinking, I like this question a lot, actually, because learning everything that I've been learning about, what it means to be a man of color in this society, and a lot of the systems and the tools that are used to keep that separation between people of color and white people who are holding the privilege and the power, how big of how almost like essential of a factor the difference in education is. And so understanding learning what it means for me to be a man of color and belonging to a community, and also like trying to advance other people like me. I think I learned that I literally belong nowhere else but higher education. I think that with the knowledge and a certain wisdom that I've acquired here, it really was an affirmation that I have an obligation to be in higher education. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how I'm looking at it.
Thanks so much, Jake. I really appreciate the answers from you and Jorge. Let's see, Erwin, what you got, brother?
Yeah, I could totally relate with Jake and Jorge. Just like it feels like, place I belong, and like it's with this knowledge I'll be able to navigate more through higher ed, and just like seeing the differences between privileges and all that. And I just want to learn more, honestly. And it's almost like Jake said, an affirmation, and he's right. It's just like we're here for a purpose, and this will guide us even more to our goal.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else got some last comments? Or Mac, you want to chime back in? Or?
I was going to say, Tony had mentioned that he had met someone, or I reminded him of someone he had in his younger days. And that guy sounds really awesome. And he sounds like a supermodel. If he's just like me, I'm just putting it out there. All right. Well, Tyrone, you got anything to add on the, how you feel like you kind of answered it in your first question. You kind of segued it in. So actually, let me start with you in the second question, which is, how do you apply this work from the program outside of higher education and in the community? So how do you take all this work we just did this semester, or those who've been in here since winter, and make it applicable, make it something you're using outside of school?
Basically, it's just like something that I keep inside of me, things I learn, and I might correct myself. I learn how to do corrections in the community. Like maybe say I might do something a certain way before. Now, I mean, I'm not perfect because we all mess up, but that thought's still there now because I actually shared it with other men of color, and we dissected it, and we talked about it and things like that. So now when I'm out in the community, I just feel like I've already felt like I was an asset, but I feel like I know that I have something to offer more than I thought I had. I knew I had more before, but now I know on a different level because there's other people from different walks of life that don't even walk the same path as me, but they still can agree with me or relate with something I said or be like, yeah, and get that acknowledgement. And that just goes to tell you again, that's another reason why a class like this is needed for someone that's trying to do better, but still is in, in the middle, kind of, I could say, like from either falling off this way or going the right way. You just boom. But this is just that centerpiece to keep me focused out here. Because other people don't care, that you're trying to change. But if you have the knowledge and the tools, you can use them. So another thing is I know consequences and I know what me doing the right thing feels like. And we point that out in this class. So I recognize it more when it approaches.
That's what's up. Thanks, Tyrone. Does anyone have similar feelings around like that was your experience too, or that's something you took away from this class? And if so, like what is it specifically that you learn in the curriculum that's like, I can take this out into the community and do something with it? Let's go, Jorge.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's bringing that piece of awareness, and now having the actual terminology or language or how to define certain acts, whether that's around male privilege or like toxic masculinity, and being able to apply an actual terminology and actual words and actual definition behind it. I think that's huge. That's a big takeaway for me, and me as a father too, being able to use that and pass it on to my kids, to as young men growing up, right? Like how to disrupt that cycle, how to disrupt some of this stuff, and just being able to. What I've learned too is being able to have a really critical mindset. I mean, one of my favorite debates was around hip hop culture and how toxic masculinity lives and is a part of hip hop culture, but also knowing, stepping back, that it also is a part of other eras, other genres across, not just hip hop. So to me, that was incredible to be able to utilize that knowledge and utilize that awareness to apply a critical mindset in what we're listening to, on what we're watching, on how we're relating to things, or how we're naming things. So to me, that's huge. So I think for number one is self-reflection, self-awareness, self-criticism, and then being able to utilize that to then foster that into our kids or our community members or friends or cousins or brothers. So I think to me, that's what has allowed me to do, is to kind of gave me tools. It gave me tools. It gave me knowledge to be able to then hopefully empower other people around me, other men of color around me.
That's what's up, Jorge. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think that's how we say community. We forget like our inner community, like our families, our immediate people underneath our house, our roofs sometimes. And, I keep saying community work a lot in my work. And I also, I always do that around my family too, but sometimes I forget to mention them when I say community. So that's what's up. Jay, you got something to throw in there?
Yeah, I just I really liked what Jorge said about like the self-reflection piece, and something that we've done in this class a lot is that self-reflection, acknowledge, figuring out what our privileges are, and from that point we can know what's really important of like when doing work in the community, when to speak on subjects and when to just listen on subjects, I think is really important. And I think that's something I've really learned in this class is just like, there are times when you need to speak up for others, you need to speak up. And then there are also times when you need to just listen to what other people have to say and what people who are struggling with these issues, people who are dealing with those issues have to say. But I think in general, also, I feel like this class has just given me a lot of, excuse me, a lot of confidence in speaking in general. I feel like, public speaking in general can be something I'm kind of, that has a lot of anxiety around it. But I feel like with that self-reflection piece, I've become more confident in my own ability to speak and to speak on subjects that I'm passionate about in the community and knowing what's important to myself. And yeah, that's how
I appreciate that, Jay. Thanks for the personal reflection on your experience in this class. Jake, you got something?
Yeah, I think it's just cool, if you don't know about it, you can't talk about it. And so for me, just to actually develop an understanding and a vocabulary around the things that I experience and see and think about every day, just made me, infinitely better at communicating that. And that's where the advocacy work really begins. So I'm definitely grateful for that piece.
Right on. Yeah, a lot of times, like, we can kind of explain it, but finally getting the terminology, like, oh, see, that's what I've been trying to say that thing for a long time, and I never knew how to approach that with the people in my circle, because it's like I can't find the words for it. Yeah, it can be very difficult. Erwin, you got anything you want to throw on there?
Yeah. Well, I came from a background from pretty much LA County, and now we didn't really talk about these subjects back home, and now I feel like I have the tools and the knowledge to like let them know like about these issues, and like sometimes they're there and like sometimes they're forgotten, and just like bring them up again and just try and like let them know sometimes it's not all right to like lower women sometimes, or like about tell them about privileges more. And I just feel like I'm grateful to know this knowledge, and now I'm able to build from that, and just I'm pretty happy where I'm at right now because of this class.
One thing we talked about in class, just looking at time, we have some time to dive into this a little bit before the next question, but I mean, we're talking about taking this work into the communities, and we're all coming from different communities. So there's going to be like different ways that we can deliver this news, approach people about it. Because some of y'all was like, like the way we address this in class isn't going to work where I come from, where I live right now, or this is not going to fly with, my cultural heritage and my ethnic background. Like these aren't things. Like, what were some of those things y'all shared in class around? Now I can't do that, but because we learned and we talked about it, I can flip it and make it work for me and my community. Because I know how to translate this into Erwin. I know how to translate this into Jake. And I can translate this into Tyrone. Like people around me are gonna know. I know how to relate this work. What are some of those examples y'all talked about in class?
One was about the cat calling thing, like seeing some girls and stuff. And I've been guilty of it. Don't get me wrong, because if you was looking good, but I thought about it, about it's all how you say something to somebody. And I also noticed that I've already done it before, but I wasn't thinking about it. But my mind was not on cat calling. It was more on they think they all that. So, who's to say they better than me? So that's why I don't want to holler at them anyway if they acting like that. But at the same time, there's people that do that and you don't know what can happen or what can transpire from cat calling. Some girl might have a brother around the corner. She might feel, you never know what can happen. It's just how you come at somebody. But when we talked about it and I started thinking like, oh, I can do, there's ways you can come at it. I could say like, hey man, no, that ain't worth it, bro. Let's just go over here, bro. She really wanted to holler at you. You can just always say something in a different way where it doesn't have to escalate, And that's what I've learned. That's when I thought about it and I came back to the other class and brought it up. And then we've also watched that film about the cat. That started from kind of like a cat calling thing too, with those young ladies and that guy and all that. So you never just what can transpire is deeper than just, it's still the same masculinity issue, and then us trying to, that privilege and all that, like, as a man, and, everybody not like that just because you might think they are. But at the same time, there's ways to, people around you can mold them to have the same thought and maybe, correct things without them even knowing they're correcting something. But
Yeah.
So.
And I appreciate that, because I think in the class you shared like, no, I can't just holler at these cats in my neighborhood like that. Like, people are gonna square up on me, or they're gonna like come at me in a way that's unsafe. And so where I'm from, I got to approach this different. So I really appreciate you bringing that up in the
Yeah,
class. 'Cause
I was
that's-
mainly talking about like just anybody hollering at. Now my people that I'm around that's with me, you know, somebody still might say something back, but it's a little bit more different than if I just see some guy that's out there that be out there and then
Yeah.
he's doing it and I try to be like, hey man, don't be doing that. You know, I've seen situations where like, who you talking to? You don't know me, like, you know, you never know. But I'm kind of real. I got the, you know, I know how to talk, and I'm kind of I'm versatile, and I got that gift.
Yeah.
So I feel
Yeah.
like, you know, we could talk and stuff, but then again, it's I know how to get away from a situation if it comes to that. So I thought about it, like I can't be letting it go to all that, you know. But for the most part, I feel like that had a big thing with me noticing that and using that in my community as well. So
Right on. Let me get one more example before we get to the next question.
Man, I'll say a good thing that I learned from this is, you know, a lot of people want to talk about the areas where they don't have power. You know what I mean? You can go into your neighborhood and you can talk with people of color about, you know, being oppressed by white people in certain ways. But if you go into your area and you start talking to men about the oppression that they're putting on women, you feel me, in certain ways, then you're gonna meet a whole different type of defensiveness. You know, and so that's where like developing the vocabulary and the actual experiences where you can draw correlations for like people can see, you know what I'm saying, like how it really looks and they can relate to it. Like being able to do that, that's when it becomes like essential, you know, because you can like hype people up and encourage them and open their mind about the ways that they're being, you know, subjugated to other people. But it's that other aspect where, you know, hey, where you're trying to educate people so that they can humble themselves and do other people right. You know what I'm saying? That's the element where it gets tricky, I think.
Yeah, one of the tactics and practices they use in a lot of like narrative shift work and organizing is like you gotta find a way to connect with the group of people that you're talking to, right? And so for any community, is like, what's my end? What's something that we can relate to? All right, this is the starting point. Now, how do I relate that and translate it in a way that's like, here are the reasons why this is not working in toxic masculinity, but in their language, in the place that they're coming from, so they can understand what. Yeah, Jake, you hit that right on the money. But yeah, just looking at time. I think we're going to go. Dr. Meeks, you got the next question?
Yeah, I'm really enthused by the conversation that's happening. Several, you mentioned the self-reflection piece, and so I'm just wondering. The next question is like, describe who you were walking into this classroom, like before, and versus who are you now. So in other words, you know, compare and contrast, compare the person who you were when you first walked into this classroom to the person you are now as you're getting ready to complete this class or this program. You want to go, Jake, or did you raise your? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Okay.
I can go.
Oh, hold on. I think. You mind if Tony go first, Tyrone? Okay. All right. So Tony, and then you, Tyrone.
Yeah, I'm not an especially confident person, not usually. And so coming into this, I had a lot of beliefs that I hadn't tried with people. I already knew about the things, the privileges that I had against women. I knew about that kind of stuff already because it was a big part of my life. But I didn't think anybody would listen to me about that. I didn't think anybody would connect. I honestly didn't give my peers enough credit to understand. And so it's like, I don't know, before I felt like my opinions were based in beliefs and not, observed facts. And so, I'm getting to the point that I can see the things in my life and know what they are when I see them. I know that like I have obstacles ahead that they're not brick walls, they're just obstacles. Right? When I got into this class, I realized that there, even though for men of color, it's such a low percentage of us actually graduate. that would really hurt me mentally. Like, I would tell myself that I wouldn't have that much of a chance because so many of us don't make it. But that's like not, sound logic. I've come to understand that like going to other levels in academia is they're accessible to me. I just have to work for it. So, coming here, I feel like when I came in the classroom, I had a lot of anger, and I didn't know who to direct it at or what to do with it. And now I feel a lot less angry and more like I have more conviction than I did before in my beliefs. Like I know that my beliefs are not bad. I know that I'm like a good person. I know that I have like good intentions, and I wouldn't have known those things if I hadn't gone through these conversations.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you so much for leading that question off and, compare and contrast. And I'm appreciative. I think everyone is appreciative for the contributions you've made. And, I think Mac and I can say we've seen how all of you have shifted, from when you first entered the program. So thank you for putting that in your own words, brother. Tyrone, what you got, brother?
I came in real and I'm leaving real. Nah, but that's true too. But what I was gonna say is I came into the class feeling all intimidated, and not necessarily the group. I was happy to be a part of the group and I appreciate it, even though I was, you still always don't know what you're coming into when you go into something. So it's always a little bit of apprehension or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, when I first came into the class, since it's online, I'll touch it with that because since it's online, I was kind of intimidated. I was like mad, like too, angry, and then I just didn't really feel like, damn, I can't do it. Like I can do it, but it's too much. And now I don't feel like that all the way anymore. I feel like, okay, I can do this, coming to class, and it's because of you guys that made me wanna, and myself too, wanting to be a part. But to me, I feel like I gained more confidence taking this class and why it's online. Before how I felt in the beginning, I wasn't really feeling it at all. Not saying I wouldn't go back to school right now if I could, but physically, but I'm saying this is making it work for me. So I'm leaving with more knowledge on how to work, get on Zoom meetings and set up appointments on my Google Calendar where it can let me know and things like that. And that's helped a lot. And another thing is I came in a young student that's smart, that been through a lot and still gonna keep it real. And then now I have more tools added to that as far as like being being a black man in the school that's predominantly Caucasian, or being in this world that's predominantly owned by Caucasian. I got a little bit more tools, and I got some ones that sharpened up that I can use out here when I get in these situations before they actually escalate or get into, any kind of type of trouble I can get into from, I got more tools in this class to use out here than I had before, and the ones that I had before, they get sharpened up or I learned something else about them, about real life situations. And we've also did work on real life situations that happen to people of color. So it makes me relate and know what to do, what not to do even more. So I'm appreciative.
Thank you, Tyrone. Jorge?
Yeah, I think to me, I think I said this before, but for me, I had a little bit of anxiety. Like I was nervous about how this whole thing was going to come together. Not just because of this whole Zoom thing, but also like I'm at home, my whole family's here. I don't really have like a space that I can just work at, be alone. Like even now, my kids are running up and down the hall. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's different. So I would say personally, from a personal perspective, I walked in with I would say, well, there was some doubt in what I knew, and some doubt in what I understood. And I think like I was also a little nervous on asking the questions, or a little nervous of like, what do I need to know, what or how much I should be knowing now. You know, I'm 35. How much knowledge am I supposed to really know by now? And I think that coming into this space and being in a space where like we're able to express and share our similar experiences that we've gone through really helped me kind of think back and pause a little bit more. I'm like, more from a sense of like, oh, this self-doubt you're having is more like shared across. It's like we are all learning together, and it's not just me who needs to like focus. And I appreciate the conversations. I appreciated everyone's willingness to be open and being real. You know, Tyrone, taking your word, yeah, being real about everything is keeping it 100. And to me, that's important. And I'm walking out feeling now way more confident. You know, expressing myself from a different perspective, using terminology that I haven't used before. And now I also feel that I can come back to a group of people, a group of men who kind of know me more, who kind of know me now and can back me up or support me or provide some guidance or give me their perspective on something that I'm having trouble with, or that I just need to express it. And, you know, any of you can be like, well, Jorge, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Or this is what it sounds like to me. And that to me is like, oh, okay. Like, it feels good to be able to, I guess, build some of that trust with a group of men that doesn't happen normally. You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up trusting men that were in my circle and involved alcohol and it involved other elements, you know, and not a classroom. And so like, this to me is dope to be able to walk out of this, you know, the spring term and coming out from a different perspective and knowing now you got other people who got your back. So that to me is dope. That's how I'm walking out.
And Jorge, you weren't just walking into the classroom, you were walking into higher education again, right? I mean, not just this term, but when you came in last term, that was your reintroduction.
Yeah, man. This is my first time back. My last time I was in school, I think was 2009, 2010, around there. So then I came back now, and before, like all these elements that I expressed earlier of like not knowing how to navigate, not knowing how to advocate, not knowing who to talk to, not knowing what I was doing right, and just staying quiet and trying to go with the flow, which ended up hurting me, you know. And I ended up going through stuff where like I got a lot of W's on my transcript. I ended up failing a lot of my classes. I didn't know who to talk to. And I just ended up like saying, forget this, I can't do this right now. And so definitely walking in last fall, first term, was definitely super scary for me. But like walking into a classroom like this, you know, like set me up. And I think it's setting me up still for like just some success. Much love and much appreciation.
Well, same goes to you, brother. You know, and to all of you, because you know, y'all didn't have to participate in this program. So, you know, but it's good to know that you all are reaping the benefits. So, Jay, what you would like to add?
Yeah, coming into this class, I think that I've been a part of a lot of programs, native programs on campus, but I was kind of doing it I think that I was doing it for myself, you know. I was doing it because I thought it would help me succeed. And because of that, I think that a lot of self-sabotaging tendencies that I have caused me to not put a whole lot of effort in those from time to time. But I think coming out of this class, it's made me more aware of my legacy. And it's made me more aware of that being involved in these clubs, being involved in this class, it's important for people of color, kids of color before me, and Native kids before me, or that are coming after me, you know. And I think that's really important, and I think it's put a lot of motivation behind me that what I'm doing is substantial and what I'm doing is helping people out, and that's important, and that's given me a lot of motivation for sure. So that's what I'm coming out of the class with.
All right, thank you, Jay. Who else would like to add something to question, and I'll repeat it. Who were you when you walked into the classroom versus who are you now?
I can go next.
Okay. Thanks, Erwin.
Before this classroom, I was scared, honestly. Just scared of my environment, scared where I'm at. Like I said before, I'm from like Southern California, and it's mostly like predominantly like mix between a lot of cultures, but mainly Hispanic and blacks. And now I'm here in a predominantly white area, and now it's different for me, and I've been scared. It's just something that I've been feeling, and just it sucks. And now that I'm in this class, I feel like I belong, and I'm part of a group again, and it almost feels kind of like home, and just I could feel like I could trust you guys more than I do like my coworker, like someone I've known for like a year or two. And I just feel that I'm grateful that I met all of you guys, and I just not alone in this journey. And yeah, I'm very happy right now.
Thanks, Erwin. Thank you very much. Jake?
Definitely, I relate to what Erwin just said. Coming from California, like pretty much most of my my social circle is like Hispanic and Black, and so then being up in Portland where it's mostly white, and I didn't necessarily have the same access to the same demographic that I felt comfortable with, was definitely a huge barrier in a lot of ways for a while, and this class really helped resolve that. So I would say like coming into this class, I think I was just somebody who I really wanted to learn and I really wanted to do right by people. And I would say that now I'm somebody who has knowledge and has the ability to do right by people. And even when I don't, to understand my privilege and where I come from so that I can recognize that and address that in myself. So, yeah.
Thanks, Jake. Mac, I'm gonna turn it back over to you, brother.
Yeah, so before we close off, just really quickly, like in a minute or two, we're going to leave with our students talking, but maybe give a minute or two to Dr. Meeks and myself if you have anything you wanted to say about the class or about the men in the program.
Thanks, Mac. No, I commend all of you for making it through, and not just making it through, like really persevering through a challenging term. I mean, in the span of 1 week, we all had to go from reporting to campus to now working and going to classes out of our homes or out of our apartments or whatever. And that's not a small that's not a small feat for a lot of folks. And you all really showed how resilient students, particularly our self-identified students of color, are when having to deal with challenges that impact not only your academic journey, but potentially impact your personal and professional journeys of life. And you all have done a wonderful job and have shown that you all are stronger and have more fire in you than sometimes you may give yourselves credit for. And that's fine. Maintain your humbleness, maintain humility, and at the same time, recognize that it's okay to be confident too. I didn't say arrogant. I said it's okay to be confident, and I think we all know the difference between the two. So, but no, I'm excited to see what all of you do after this time. Please know that myself and Mac, we're here because at least I know for myself, you know, when guys were getting ready to complete the program, you know, one of the things I would tell them is, you know, don't be a stranger, you know, and remember this, you know, you all made this program, you know, and you know, you're always welcome with open arms. And definitely, you know, if I can be of any service to any of you all, let me know. I think some of you have my number, and for those of you who don't, I definitely want to make sure you all have it, so that no matter, you know, where you are or what happens, you know, you all have a way to connect with me, even if it's just to check in and see how y'all are doing. So again, congratulations, fellas, on a wonderful term. I know it was hard. I know it was difficult at times, but you didn't give up, man. And that says a whole lot. And it challenges the stereotypes that are out there about us as men of color. So, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Meeks. I don't want to repeat too many things that have already been said. I just say y'all really made this year memorable. You got through it through a pandemic, you know, through protests and through, you know, all the adversities that have always been there, right? And here you are, finishing strong, passing the class. Y'all passing the class. That must feel good. Good grades. And in community. We said it from the very first day for those who joined, that like the pillar that holds this the structure up for us will be community building, your relationship building. And the stories you shared today, I think, are reflective of our intention to make that happen, but also just who you all are as outstanding men of color here at PCC and in the community. So keep it up. I expect big things. You know, if you make it big, let me borrow $5, you know, or holler at me if you're on like the radio or something. Shout out this program, because it's not going to end here, right? Every year. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep going out and try to make a home for new students who need a program like this. And just because this year ended doesn't mean that you're not part of the program anymore. You're always part of a cohort that now expands 12 years. And it's been a blessing to be there in year one. You know, when I left, Dr. Meeks came in and really elevated this program, and to come back and do it together, this is like a dream come true for this program and for us as professionals. So mad props to everybody. I promise you, when they lift this stay-at-home ban, I'm going to barbecue, and you guys are going to watch me eat. All right, so this is it. We're just going to go down the line. And really just any closing words you have for folks that you want to share. You know, it could be about anything, your experience or about this program, or, you know, why this thing is so special to you. Just whatever you have to say, some closing words, and we'll get out of here. Anyone want to volunteer to go first? Tyrone, let's do it.
I just appreciate everybody, man, sharing personal experiences and, you know, staying in touch kind of with some students, but I feel like I also want to stay in touch. Hopefully it's my journey just starting in the program as well, because this is my first time I took the class, not with Dr. Meeks as a teacher, but I just, you know, want to keep being part of it. And that felt really good to hear you guys say that. And I just wish everybody, you know, a good journey, and hope you prosper and accomplish all your goals and things like that. And it was good knowing you guys, and hopefully we can stay in touch and keep on popping this popcorn.
Yeah.
Oh, and I also like to add, you can tell that we really have some kind of connection in this class, and we go deep with each other, like the color purple deep, because there's all that stuff going on, this epidemic, this Zoom thing, and all those protests and the riots and stuff like that. And we still managed to come here and knowing how we feel and be able to talk about things and still get through class and still a laugh here and there. So.
Oh, sorry. I was talking on mute. It had to happen one Zoom call. Like, it didn't happen so far. It had to happen before the call was over. So Thank you, Tyrone, for the message. Yeah, we'll definitely connect, and we're gonna go to Tony.
I just wanted to say that, like, we're all kind of what I would consider, I'd like to call you my friends now. And to me, friendship matters more than anything else in the world. So, like, if you guys need anything, if you have no one else to call, if you just want to talk, like, I will always be there for you. That's just my policy with friendship. So, like, anybody in this class, you see me on campus, come and talk to me. We'll go get something to eat. You know, when all this is blown over.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate that. I will take you up on food. I know you're talking to everyone else, but I will take you up on food. And I know you're talking about me.
You too. I mean, you too.
I would never make you pay. I know y'all got financial aid, all the stuff you need. I'll pay for the food. Any excuse to have a work food meeting. Who else would like to go next? Let's go.
Man, I think just real talk, man. I think that, man, I just appreciate everyone here. I think that, I don't know, man, this is a different feeling being coming to this class. You know, it doesn't feel like a class. You know, I think we said it more than once. It's therapeutic, and it's also community, and it's also friendship. You know, but it's like one of these. To me, I almost see it like a healing circle, man. Like, just one of them moments, man. No matter how or what we're going through, just like Tyrone pointed out, right? There's a pandemic right now. There's riots right now. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, and we're dealing with Zoom. And so, like, to get through all of that and still make it through this whole time together, you know what I mean? Like, that says something. And, like, definitely, man, like, I'm so down, like, to hang out, or even, being able to lean on each other for support, or whatever that might look like. Like, that's just real talk. So I wish everyone the best, and be well, and yeah, like, reach out. I mean, whenever, whatever you need, man. Like, I'll do my best to be there. I might show up with 4 kids and a puppy, but I'll probably be there.
Family's always welcome to hang out with.
Appreciate that, though, Jorge. Yeah, it's very healing. It's very therapeutic. And it's not like intentionally y'all create that space, just naturally. It comes off really well. Erwin, are you about to jump on?
Yeah, I can go next. Yeah, I just want to say I'm grateful for this class and appreciative for all of you sharing your opinions and getting to know you on a deeper level. We're not in this alone. So, like everyone's saying, you're all my friends. Anytime you want to hang out, talk at campus, whatever. Just can't wait until it opens up again. But in this time, I feel like it's a shame. It would be a shame that they take away this class, because with everything that's going on, I feel like we need it as men of color. So looking forward, I just hope this class and this program keeps on going. And yeah, because it's a very good experience to be in.
Yeah, thank you, Erwin. You bring up some really strong points. I mean, there's a lot of fear around budget cuts, what the school can afford or can't afford. And I think you make a really good case that they can't afford to lose a program like this. We just see the change every year. Thank you so much for saying that. Jay, you want to go?
Yeah, I think it's been said. I feel like I've never been in a class where I feel like we've been bonding this much with each other, and talking openly about how we truly feel. I talked about it earlier about how a lot of times academia is not real. A lot of times they discredit a lot of our thoughts, and I've never felt that way in this class, and that's been truly, truly important to me. Y'all are always open to hear each other out and listen to my opinions, and I'm always down for the same with y'all. So it means a lot, and y'all are gonna go on to be successes, and no matter what you do, I know that for sure. Y'all are great guys for sure.
All right. Thanks, Jay. I try to get Jay in during the winter term. I was bothering Jay like, Jay, you gotta join now, man. And we did talk a little. Jay was like, yeah, I should have joined in the winter. I just too many things were going on at the same time. But Jay, you definitely had an impact on folks, and you got a contagious personality that brings a lot of positive energy into a place. So appreciate that spirit and for making a commitment to be in the program. All right. Last but not least, my man Jake, let's go. Close us out strong.
All right. So I don't know if y'all saw the email or what, but we just gonna tie that into here real quick. This was the coolest experience of my whole education. This program is absolutely essential. What I wanted to really leave everybody with is this, especially in light of the threat of budget cuts and everything, is PCC's mission statement, which reads, Portland Community College supports student success by delivering access to quality education while advancing economic development and promoting sustainability in a collaborative culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Without programs like this, we would be getting just a fundamental data education, and we are exactly the commitment that Portland Community College has made to its students and to the community. So best program ever, best classes ever, best people ever. I really loved every second of it, and of course we all gonna keep in touch.
Right on, right on. Appreciate that. Oh, Jake's on a mission. Jake's on a mission. And I'll tell you this, if this program ever becomes a threat, we never know. I'm hopeful that it's not on the chopping blocks. It's a commitment PCC made. This program is the only Men of Color program that's fully funded by PCC. Hopefully we can get that for all the other campuses as well. But, this stuff plays off. You'll have a lot to do with it, and we're very thankful for that. My last words to our folks listening is that you're seeing the future right here in whatever community they go in. And, for other professors and other programs that take them in, for those who are coming back next term, you got a lot coming at your way, load of resources and big hearts. And, I appreciate the friendship that y'all are sharing. The way I always see it too is like we're all family. And if y'all ever need anything from myself and Dr. Meeks, we're going to make ourselves available at any cost. And y'all saw that, in terms of financial support, resource support, or just someone to talk to, even just to talk things out. I mean, it hasn't been a smooth road, but y'all felt like you could come to us, and we felt like we can come to you, and that really warms my heart. And so I just leave with this, like every time I've ended one of these classes, I just tell all my students this, and it just goes back to our man box conversation, and is that I love you guys, right? We don't get in a place where we can say that to each other, but when you go through a program like this, you've been in a part of a cohort, that's what it is. It's all love. And so when you see me again and we're throwing daps, I'm going to be like, I love you, bro. Take care. Like all that is going to come from me to you from here on out for the rest of your life, because that's what I got for everybody here. And I appreciate all the energy. You make this job worth coming back to. I don't know if y'all knew I left PCC. Not on bad terms. I had things to do, like go get a master's. But I came back, and I wanted to be back. And it's a program like this, the opportunity to come back to the program I helped start is, I wanted it. And before we leave, and I got to say this to everybody, I got to shout out a name, two names really, and all those who help, but Dr. Clara Oliveros. She's the founding coordinator of our Multicultural Center. She's also the founder for the Men of Color program. And if y'all ever get a chance, or you see or hear about Dr. Clara Oliveros, and the partners that helped put this together, Dr. Preston Williams and Deborah Evans and Jeannie LaFrance, and all those folks who helped pull the resources and funds to make this happen, it's a real deal. But I will always shout out Dr. Clara Oliveros for spearheading this and reminding folks that our men's work stands on the shoulders of a feminist movement. And we got a lot to be appreciative because of their sacrifices. So everybody listening out there, man, we can all come off of mute and just say goodbye to everybody. Thank y'all for listening. Check us out next year. Come to the Multicultural Center to see if you want to join this program. I love y'all. Take care.
All right,
See you later.
peace out.
Y'all too, man. Shout out everybody, man.
Yeah, good
I
one.
love y'all, man. For
Yeah, I love
sure.
you too.
Deuces, man.
All right.
Mayumasi, y'all.
Mhm.
Thanks for everything.